But now it's time for our next debate, and guess what? It's me. This is very weird going second on this show, but there we go. It's been a very interesting few weeks, and in my opinion, Orwell's 1984 is in full swing under Keir Starmer's Labour government. Just the other day, we discovered Ofcom have been paying social media influencers to promote propaganda about the online safety bill, some not even declaring that it's a government-sponsored post.
Hopefully, I've now got your attention. Just like this pornography beer, as of the 25th of July, you will need to prove that you are over 18 to be able to get served pornography online. This is not to judge anyone or to ruin the fun for any adults. It's purely to stop children seeing content that is made for adults. The new rules are here to make the internet safer for children because some things are for adults only. To be honest, the current age checks on pornography sites just aren't cutting it.
Yeah, that's political in my opinion, because I think that's an opinion. And the fact the government are using taxpayers' money for this is shocking. So is it any surprise Donald Trump's White House has said they are deeply concerned about an email that exposes the UK government's secret elite spy units questioning a US tech firm over posts, get this, exposing two-tier policing? This is tyranny, pure and simple. Your civil liberties, freedom of speech and expression were hard fought for over hundreds of thousands of Brits died fighting in World War II for you to enjoy these rights less than 100 years ago. But now they are at very real risk of being lost forever. Kai, I will start with you.
Yes.
Listen, I was on with the former Culture Secretary the other day, who I think I've made my opinions quite clear that I hold the Tories mostly responsible for this bill.
Yeah,
and Keir Starmer has, of course, and the Labour government have what I think committed an own goal and continued to press ahead with this bill and defend it. It's completely out of purpose, isn't it?
No, I think actually what you've seen is the implementation has been really poor by social media companies and so on, and platforms, right? Because actually the Act was designed so that it doesn't tell companies what to do and set out how they can do it, but actually leaves the implementation in their hands. It sets out principles, broad principles, but where public interest content is being blocked, things like some of the examples that you've highlighted on Twitter, for instance, then the government and Ofcom can interrogate the risk assessments they've made and whatever. But really, this angle here about some 2-bit Love Islanders with turkey teeth promoting the government's policy, I don't think that's something to write home about. Really,
well, I want to throw up this image for you because this is part of the rules. Now, Chloe sent this to me earlier. I hadn't seen this, so maybe Chloe can talk through it in just a second, because these are here a litany of things that are supposedly fall under the online safety bill. Is that right, Chloe?
Yeah, exactly. So as we saw in that video that was paid for by the government, they're painting this as all being about children, but in the online safety bill, conveniently snuck in is a list of things that are illegal for all of us and should be taken down for all of us. And on that list there, I don't know if we can bring it back up, you've got various horrific things that we can all agree should be illegal, like, for example, child sexual abuse. But conveniently snuck in there is content relating to illegal migration and people smuggling. Why on earth should that be illegal content? That's very concerning, and that's going to make people terrified to talk about these issues. We've got a nation that feels so disenfranchised at the ballot box when it comes to speaking about illegal migration, but now they're going to feel disenfranchised in that they won't be able to have a voice online because they're scared of being the next Lucy Connolly.
It exposes the hollowness at the heart of this government. At least Blair was good at spin. This isn't just spin, it's really bad spin. Like, the oldest trick in the political playbook is to say, well, please, can we think of the children, put one good thing into a bill and then put 7 or 8 really bad things in, and that is exactly what they're doing. People like Peter Kyle, and they're just saying, well, if you're against this, you're against kids looking at pornography. And we all know that this is so much more broad. It's
so much bigger than that.
And the reason they are doing it is they think that you are idiots at home. And they're not, and that's why they're so unpopular, because they take the public for idiots.
Trey, Roland here has said parents and parents alone are responsible for their kids' safety. What do you make of that?
I would absolutely agree with that. To an extent, though, obviously, there are some things that are harmful towards kids, but I think ultimately parents should be responsible for how much time kids are spending online. And I think the thing that worries me about this is I'm quite passionate about the whole COVID era where there was lots of truths that were suppressed. And I agree with you, Well. I wonder how many other truths would be suppressed. What we actually need to be doing is actually speaking about stuff, even if we don't agree about stuff, so it's out in the open and we can do something about it.
We can still do that. We can still do that here. Any public interest content, and yes, there have been teething problems where things that shouldn't have been blocked are blocked, right?
Teething problems.
Teething problems. No,
Is that the line now?
By the social media companies. But in your example, the people smuggling in illegal migration, that is not designed to block articles about illegal migration. It's clearly in the same category as fraud, which is also in your screen grab. It's to stop people understanding how to commit fraud and glorifying people who do commit fraud.
Well, it's not hard to figure out how to commit people smuggling. You get a dinghy, you put them on it, and you charge them before. That's the problem, Kai, is that it actually doesn't... This is the issue I have with this whole bill. And anyone... And I was saying this again to the former Culture Secretary who wrote this bill. I don't think they understand even what a VPN is. And I asked her multiple times, and in my opinion, she dodged it. I asked her, can you tell me how a VPN works?
Oh, and we've had other examples, right? I think it was Dean Dorries who went into a meeting with a civil servant and asked, can they get rid of the algorithms? These people don't understand technology. That's obvious.
They don't understand it. So therefore, anything they try to do around it is easily circumvented by a smart 12-year-old with a gaming computer, Chloe.
Yeah, and the other thing, just speaking about the implementation by the social media companies in response to you, Kai, is that when the social media companies are going to be threatened with potentially imprisonment or huge fines, they're going to create an algorithm which is oversensitive and takes down loads of stuff that it shouldn't do.
Yeah. OK, well, an Ofcom spokesperson has said this. Helping people understand new online safety protections is an important part of our job as the communications watchdog. Like many public bodies, we work with online ambassadors to reach millions of children and adults who connect with them. In our case, explaining changes that are happening and how to stay safe. Well, there you go. Shocking story here. A record number of people aged 60 or older have been referred to the government's anti-terrorism scheme for alleged extreme right-wing views. 127 people in their 60s or over were referred to Prevent between 2023 and 2024. And 43 of them were on the list for what were described as extreme right-wing views. Well, to talk about this, I'm joined by Chris Phillips, who's the former head of the National Counter-Terrorism and Security Office. Chris, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Talk us through what kind of circumstances would lead up to 60-year-olds being placed on a scheme that many people would say was possibly to combat extreme terrorism, not potentially social media posts.
Yeah, well, people are being told that they should report people for extreme views. But of course, one man's extremism is another man's mainstream views. And this is the issue. Where is the bar set? As to someone having extreme views or not. And of course, whether those views are likely to tip over into someone doing something really bad. And I think this is the issue. And the issue is one that the public, general public, I think a vast majority of the public are disillusioned with what government have done. And because of that, you are getting people becoming more and more frustrated and airing their views in public. And of course, if people are told to report that to the Prevent, then that's what's happening.
Yeah, Chris, I'm going to pass it over to my panel because everyone here would love to ask you a question, so I don't want to waffle too much. Will?
Yeah, Chris, you mentioned that the public is disillusioned there. I would suggest that one reason the public is disillusioned is because that they feel like the threat of Islamic terrorism is being talked down by bodies like this, and the threat of far-right extremism is being talked up, which is disproportionate to what's happening in the real world. Do you agree with that? And if so, is this particular case an example of that bias?
Well, I definitely do agree with you. 75% of the work of MI5 is extreme Islamic terrorism. And what we see with that form of terrorism is people going out and committing mass murder. And of course, that's far worse than people getting very upset about immigration. I think the trouble is with these figures, of course, people are reported and the Prevent stream have to deal with what they get. Now, just because someone's reported to the Prevent stream, that doesn't mean to say any action will be taken. It's simply a case of them being reported.
Yeah, Chloe?
Yeah, just off the back of that, these people who are being reported to prevent, do you know if in most cases where you've got, say, some pensioner being referred to them, that they're just looking at it and going, oh, this is a load of nonsense, I'm throwing it out? Or are you genuinely getting pensioners being interrogated for, say, their anti-immigration viewpoints and taken really seriously by Prevent?
Well, I don't know that, to be quite honest. I don't know the answer to that question. But what I do know is that any sensible police officer or Prevent would know the difference between someone that's concerned and airing their views about immigration and the difference between that and someone that's looking to commit terrorist acts in the UK. So I would hope, common sense prevails. That these cases, whilst they're reported, they're dealt with correctly and not taken too far.
Kai?
Yeah, I think common sense has prevailed, hasn't it? I mean, the numbers we're talking about here are minuscule. It's 43 over-60s being referred to Prevent for extreme right-wing views. Isn't this really making a mountain out of a molehill, making this story as such as it is?
Well, I mean, it is a small number of people. What we have seen, of course, is widespread or, concern about immigration. And I think we are in a situation, I would suggest that riots only happen in the summertime. We're now in the summertime. And I think there is real concern about people getting so frustrated with government, so frustrated with the current situation that they do take their sort of law into their own hands. And we could see breakouts of violence. So I think it is something that needs to be taken seriously, but it's not in the same ballpark as what we've seen with the Islamic extreme terrorism.
Trey.
Hey Chris, Trey here. I'm just wondering, obviously you said 75% of it has been Islamic terrorism. Do you envisage a future at some point where potentially people who feel so disgruntled over here, get so upset by everything that they do take matters into their own hands and we do have terror type attacks against migrant hostels or something in the future?
Well, we have seen it. Let's be quite frank. We've seen individuals go and commit acts of terrorism. Finsbury Park Mosque, you might remember a few years ago, I was there after it had happened. And, someone had driven up from Wales to attack people there. So we do see it from time to time. And that's why the police have to take it seriously. The security services have to monitor it. And where people are getting out of hand, then they need to be dealt with. But, in the list of concerns, of risks, then it's much further down the line than we've seen with the extreme examples of Islamic terrorism.
OK, Chris Phillips there, the former head of National Counter-Terrorism and Security Office. Thank you very much for giving us your expert perspective on that story there. I want to open this up to my panel here so we can keep the conversation going. Will, do you know what bothers me, particularly about things like Prevent, is I think they're relatively useless. When we look at what Axel Ruda Cabana was referred to that programme, they failed to stop him. It says to me that actually these programmes are not focusing on the correct thing. But do you think I'm right in saying that?
Yeah, I think you are. And look, I think Kai is right, and that the number is quite small. I agree with that. But I think we all in our mind have that, and I can't remember when was it. What the bloke was, his house was opened up by the police, and he had Brexity things.
Yes, Brexity things
on his wall.
Douglas Murray books and things like that.
Yeah. I think that is the image that we all have in our minds, and it goes to an ideological capture of these institutions where they are inherently more likely to think about the real evil being from the far right as opposed to being from Islamic extremism, which statistically is a much greater threat in this country.
Do you think, Chloe, with things like the online safety bill passing, where there's potentially this expanding of the rules as to what can be deemed sort of offensive or harmful to people, that's censored, that people will see that, or at least people who are perhaps on the extreme left that think anything that's mildly right-wing is extreme right-wing? Do you think that's going to embolden them?
Yeah, I think if the state starts to define what is extremism and what's not extremism to the point where they're potentially saying, as we saw earlier, talking about what is in the online safety bill, that it looks like illegal migration, talk of that is considered some sort of extreme, very harmful thing to say, then that is going to lead people on the left to think, well, Keir Starmer or the government and Whitehall have said this, therefore that is some sort of extremist, terrorist kind of point of view. Yeah,
Trey, Jack here has just said on your say, far right is thrown about so much these days that it means nothing anymore. anymore. It seems like you can be branded far-right or fascist just for having a different opinion to the government. I think there's a lot of people who feel that way.
Yeah, I think it's true. And that's what I love about what GB News does. And like I said, I've said it again and again. I sit on this seat and I do not agree with a lot of what I hear, but I love that the conversation is actually happening because something needs to actually be out there in the open. I think most people are just frustrated. I think that's the truth.
Yeah.
Most people are just frustrated. However, I do understand, though, the concerns about far-right because look at the history of Europe. I mean, literally, we've lost millions and millions of people. So there needs to be some sort of watch on it, but it needs to be just done in terms of balance. There's not enough leadership. I think that's the problem. That's why sometimes I think I challenge what Will says. I think there's not enough leadership that brings everyone together.
Yeah.
We all want to see a reduction in votes. We all want to see the economy improve, but it's how we go about it. Do we want to use inflammatory language where it demonises massive amounts of people who are not migrants, or do we want to do it in a way we bring everyone together? I think that's my concern, and that's where it comes from.
I think we also just need to define what is far-right, because nobody can ever answer that question. Anyway, a Home Office spokesperson has said this. Since it first came into existence 2 decades ago, the Prevent programme has dealt with a wide range of individuals where concerns have been raised about their potential radicalisation. The makeup of individuals referred to the Prevent programme may change over time, but the role of the programme in stopping people from becoming terrorists remains the same. The number of referrals might include individuals who have been reported more than once during the year.